All right, friends, bring it in. Let's talk about it for a second. You see, I love Portkeys. Portkeys has been a great monitor company just from the last couple years that I've been using monitors. And this right here is no other than the LH5P II. You see, if you've been following this channel for some time, you know that I typically have been shooting on a Portkeys LH7P, which is just the 7-inch version of this monitor with no wired camera control. Other than that, they're pretty darn similar. And I was really looking for something that I could just get rid of the wireless connection, go with a wired connection, have a wired connection directly to my camera. And I purchased this monitor. After a lot of software updates, a lot of issues back and forth with customer support, and then the release of the Atomos Shinobi 2, I'm returning this monitor because it doesn't fit into my workflow. But what I want to talk about today is this monitor right for you? You see, I don't need the box anymore because I've already unboxed it, obviously. And something that I want to go through today is just all of the features that this monitor has and all of the things this monitor can do that some of the people in my comment section actually need and use each and every day. So up front, I want to talk about this. Portkeys does such a fantastic job at these function buttons on the top of the monitor. F1, F2, F3, and F4. You can program them to any of the monitor's functions or features, and it just works so stinking well. To be able to have a monitor on your camera and be like, oh, F1, I want to turn on or off my audio controls. F2, I want to turn on or off my waveforms. F3, I want to turn on or off focus peaking. F4, I want to do whatever my heart desires that I want to do on F4. It's so nice just having dedicated buttons without having to go into the menu, go into the specific spot, go into this. Portkeys kills it on this. It's kind of the same concept with having a menu and an exit button. These don't always work when you're in camera control. I'll kind of show you a clip of that in a little bit, but just having dedicated buttons on the monitor is very helpful. Up next, this is something people talk about a lot when I give praise to the Atomos Shinobi, HDMI in and HDMI out. This makes sense if I was ever on set running a director's monitor or having a client monitor and using this monitor at the same time. Being able to have an HDMI out where I can send a wireless connection across the room to an iPad or to another screen is huge. The Atomos Shinobi 2 doesn't have an HDMI out. And honestly, the reason I'm getting rid of this monitor and the reason I'm selling it is because I already own a Portkeys LH7P that has that HDMI out. So if I'm ever on set, I can bust out an LH7P and still get that wireless signal across the room. So up next is something I want to talk about, and the reason I bought this monitor, because I was under the assumption that this had a wired camera control. And I could just plug this in via USB-C, via the Sony multi-port, and get all of the controls that I typically get with wireless Portkeys monitors. But this is just not the case. See, after a bunch of emails back and forth with Portkeys and a bunch of support emails, I figured out that like the wired control for this to a Sony camera, especially an A7S III like I shoot on, it's just limiting. So I'm used to the Portkeys menu where you have your white balance, you have your ISO, you have your aperture, you have all of your things, you have your touch focus, you have all of these things all wirelessly to the camera. But when you're running a wired connection, you get a very lame rendition of ISO and aperture and no white balance, and that's about it. And honestly, I thought something was wrong with my monitor, so I sent multiple emails back and forth to Portkeys. And finally, they sent me an email back and said, no, this is how it's supposed to look. And they sent me a video, and it looks not great. So the whole purpose of purchasing this monitor was to have a wired connection for camera control. For my monitor being on my camera. And unfortunately for this monitor, although it does have its quirks, it does have its giggles, it does have its things, and I would have been using it, it can't replace the LH7P that I already own and the Atomos Shinobi 2, which I feel like is a far better monitor for my use case. Calm down, okay? So who is this monitor for? At $399, I think if you are needing a monitor with touch control, specifically one of the only monitors on the market that has tap to focus. So if you utilize your tap to focus in your camera control and you utilize HDMI out, this Portkeys LH5P II is absolutely the monitor for you. If you don't utilize HDMI out a ton out of your monitor and can go without it, or if you don't utilize tap to focus a ton when you're using a monitor fully rigged up, then I would pass this monitor to the side and go with the Atomos Shinobi 2 that just released a few weeks ago. You see, that's the benefit. However, there are some people in my comments who say that the fan on this thing is ridiculously loud. Now, with the way I shoot and the way I run things, I am always running audio on my talent or just above my talent. I'm never, ever, ever running audio from my camera rig right next to my monitor. So the fan on this does not bother me at all. It can kick into high gear on a hot summer day, and I know that my on-camera mic on the actual camera is just getting either ambient audio or just random laughs and random giggles, and a fan does not matter. Stuff like this, sure, I've got a mic on my camera, but there's also a big old microphone just out of frame right here. So even for talking head YouTube stuff, the fan on this doesn't matter at all. Other than that, since I didn't exactly do a proper unboxing, let's pull some of this together. Something that Portkeys has done so well in all of their monitor releases and honestly all of their products is they actually provide a lot of cool things in the box. So with this, number one, you get a USB-C flash drive. This is for software updates. This is for loading LUTs, but hey, they send you a USB-A flash drive. Pretty stinking cool. This right here is a dedicated DC power cable to a D-tap, so you can immediately plug this thing right into a V-mount battery right out of the box. Fantastic that this is included. Portkeys is just killing it when it comes to things that are actually included in the box. This right here is the camera control cable to the Sony multi-port, and then the same as camera control cable to USB-C for all of you USB-C guys. And also, they include this little guy, which is just an extra antenna just in case you ever break the antenna on the back of this monitor for some reason. So super cool that they actually include all of these things in the actual monitor. And on top of all that, you get a full padded hard case to actually keep your monitor and all your cables in. I don't typically use these. Typically these get thrown and my monitor just goes straight into my camera bag. However, I do know a lot of guys who have put their monitors in their camera bags, got into a shoot, and something banged around, a battery hit the screen, and their monitor's cracked or not even being able to be used. So big shout out to Portkeys for, I don't know, actually including useful accessories within the packaging. I know with my Atomos Shinobi, the only thing that was received in that box was a USB-C cable to USB-C. You know how many USB-C cables I have in this office? That was useless. It was a useless thing, and it was incredibly too long. So I would imagine if you're USB-C to USB-C going from your camera to your monitor, you only needed about 6 to 8 inches, but they included a 3-foot one just in case my rig was this big. I don't know. So big shout out to Portkeys for doing what they do. I'm gonna be sticking to kind of a 2-monitor setup from here on out, which for my wedding day rig, my everyday kind of run and gun shooting, it's gonna be the Atomos Shinobi 2 right on top of my camera, mounted to my camera, because I love the software on it. I love the camera controls. Now that they've released the 0.1 firmware update that fixed all my problems, I am extremely pumped to be able to use that monitor every single day just on my main camera rig. And number two, I'm keeping my Shinobi 7. And number two, I am keeping my LH5P from Portkeys. It is almost exactly the same as this monitor, except it doesn't offer a wired connection. It's a 7-inch screen, but that monitor is going to come in clutch with anytime we're running car rigs or anytime I need that wireless camera control, or even having a director's monitor on set and having that HDMI out directly out of the camera. Because sometimes if I'm shooting on the A7S or an FX3, you just have one HDMI port out. You can go one HDMI port into the monitor, one HDMI port into a wireless feed, and one wireless feed across the room for your clients. So I'm keeping that LH5P because it's versatile, it has all of these features, and I just don't see myself needing both. So The only reason I'm returning this is honestly because the Atomos Shinobi 2 released. I purchased this monitor, 5 days later the Shinobi 2 dropped, and I immediately bought that one as well, just to say, hey, I'll return the one that I don't like as much. So I just want to keep it honest, keep it real with you guys. This is the LH5P II. And honestly, if you need a 5-inch monitor with camera control, with HDMI out, it's not a bad option. So it's really actually one of your only 2 or 3 options under $400. So give it a try if you're looking for it. But I'll catch you guys on the next video. This was all kind of about the LH5P II from Portkeys, which unfortunately I'm not keeping it because I found something that works better for my workflow. So I'll catch you guys on the next video. See ya.